Hey guys, this week's podcast guest is Rachel Fix Dominguez from Buffalo Spree. She came down, talked about eating all over the world, and Buffalo's ethnic restaurant scene. Let's get to it.
So you must have really enjoyed when Krista and Julia had their meme-ification of you.
That was great.
With your picture of you and like a scorpion, was it?
Yeah, I did. That was actually a scorpion that I ate.
Nice.
Yeah. That was I think in 2007. Yeah,
Okay.
my husband and I were in China on our way to and from Mongolia, and
Nice.
so we actually ate a whole lot of really good stuff on that trip. But one of the things we did was go to the night market in Beijing and try a whole bunch of different things like starfish on a stick and scorpions and
Wow, starfish on a
silkworms and-
stick.
yeah.
That's
Yeah, it's not that good. It's really, it's sort of like, when you eat a really bad deep fried breaded pork chop.
Yes.
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 And that breading just tastes like it overwhelms it because it's almost like a burnt breading.
Yeah,
taste. Yeah, that's kind of what it tasted like. So I think they have to really, really deep fry.
I bet. Yeah. And so, like, when you're eating something like that, are you eating it because you realize, like, this is really the only time I could try something like this? Or or is it shock value? Or are you generally...
No, I think I'm definitely adventurous in a lot of different ways, and this is one of them. And, I think I just want to know what it tastes like, and I don't, to me, it's not a huge stumbling block. Like, if something is not what I'm supposed to be eating, like, it just, and I like having that frame of reference. And I think, in general, I approach food as, I'm lucky to have choices. I'm lucky to have the opportunity to eat different things. And so if something like that comes up, it seems a shame to turn it down.
Yeah, I think I'm getting to that point. I think Allie's slowly getting to that point where if we go somewhere and I see something weird on a menu or not even just weird, just different that I've never seen before, I'm like, I should try this. Like, like, where else am I going to do it? And then worry about how disgusting it tastes at a later point.
Right.
After the fact.
Yeah, and I think, too, like, there's, I'm more disgusted by, like, very, very processed things than I am by things that are different than something I've eaten before, I'd be more I'm more disgusted thinking about pink slime than I am thinking about a scorpion on a stick or whatever. So, it's all about perspective.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And, I think that's what travel gives you is that, just opens up your eyes to different ways of thinking about things. So, I've been lucky that way.
So I guess, let's start kind of at the beginning, like, have you been an adventurous eater for pretty much your entire life, or is this like something that's come on later?
I don't, I would say that I've been kind of an adventurous person for my whole life. Like, I have always been interested in traveling. I have always been interested in learning about other places, and to me, food is an extension of that interest. Like, it's one aspect of a culture that I've been interested in exploring. So I don't know. I think I've never been a picky eater, but I've never I grew up in a home on the east side with a mom who's Polish and a dad who's sort of that, German-Irish mix. So, it's a typical kind of Buffalo configuration of a family. And so, we mostly were informed by my mom's history growing up. I mostly,
hence your pierogi judging.
Right, yeah, exactly. I know my Polish food, and but then I would say it was really like in going to college. I started. I went to Oberlin for undergrad, and I lived and ate in co-ops the whole time I was there, and that really kind of is where my first experience with just like eating a whole bunch of different things came into play, because we were making and eating everything. And
that sounds really crazy.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there were a lot of times when, or not a lot of times, but several times when the things that were served for dinner were just really close to inedible in the co-ops, and brown rice that like really hadn't been cooked, and vegan pizza back in the 90s before like there was good really options for vegan cheese, and it just you wound up eating sort of like soggy dough and vegan cheese, and or going into the kitchen yourself and figuring out what you were going to do later on, but I got, I think, more interested in food in general and food politics really at that time, and then kind of I would say during and after college is when I really started eating more interesting stuff.
I mean, I now that I'm thinking about it, we really haven't had too many people down here besides probably Krista who have actually been pretty vocal in the food politics thing, like too. I haven't even like thought about that, like so like that part of non-processed, like organic, like that was creeping in around those like early college years.
So Oberlin, where I went for college, has one of the largest student cooperative associations of any college, and it's located in northeastern Ohio outside Cleveland, and so there are a number of farms, particularly in southeastern Ohio, lots of Amish farmers and others, and so we had for all of the student co-ops at Oberlin, there was a local foods coordinator position, and so I ran and I got that position for a year, and so I was really involved in kind of making contacts with farmers and going out to farms and
seeing firsthand, probably
like picking up huge things of honey, to serve all the several hundred students who were eating in co-ops on the campus and stuff. And
that's got to be a really like awesome way to learn about that whole world. I mean, just firsthand knowledge and seeing it in front of you, and this is probably, I mean, the whole farm to table thing is, I mean, really popularized in like the last like 6 years or so. So this is kind of even before that. Like,
I think there were a lot of people doing it around that time, and particularly sort of the I don't know, crunchy, hippie scene that I was involved in at Oberlin, but it has been really, really great to see it grow so and become so much more mainstream, and that's why I really think what Krista is doing and has done for the for Buffalo is amazing, because it has been something that's been around for a long time, but it's gained momentum, and she's managed to sort of push it into the limelight here at a time when it's just becoming popular and therefore really like
like you can go to
make it snowball.
Like you can go to like Spars and you'll see Tea Meadow on their products, and like that means something to people now. Like before, like you nobody would have gave whatever that, like, okay, great, that's from whatever.
You can swear on my podcast.
I didn't know. So I try to balance some people who I think like are gonna have a lot of family possibly listening to.
For any family listening, I'm sorry, I'm giving Donnie the right to say give a shit.
Yes, but I mean, I like, even for us, like 3 years ago, that would have meant nothing. Like, but now, like, I actively go out and see, like, okay, that's from Tea Meadow, that's from Oles, like, like they're name brands now of, and like, I love that, and I think that's definitely something that we've seen like the 4 years become more of a popular thing, I think.
Well, and some people, I think the other thing that's really good is that that stuff can be trendy and it can be hip. And to the point where it means something, but it really is just sort of another brand and another trend. And what I don't see happening here, and what I'm really appreciative about, is that we're not just sort of jumping on a bandwagon because it's hip and it's cool and it's the thing to do right now. It's really about creating something that's a little, that's bigger than that, and building on like Buffalo's strengths, our region's strengths, and giving the movement some legs, not just doing it to make a quick buck right now because people will pay, premium prices for whatever. And, it's sort of like the whole Portlandia thing. Like, you can do it in a way that, like, that really isn't great for the community or for the farmers, and that's also not what I see happening.
And
here.
Also just annoying.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, you could, because you'll go to. I forgot what documentary I watched. It's about, I think, about beer, and they show like companies who are just buying craft beers because now that's a trend. Like, rather than give a shit about the actual beer that they're making, just be like, yeah, there's this little microbrewery that we can say we own, and because that's a popular thing,
right?
And so I hope that's not going to happen, but
yeah, I mean, and it might happen somewhat here, but it's not. It's, you know, the people who are really involved in and have, like, people like Krista who have their finger on the pulse of that movement. They're not about that, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
So.
So let's talk about your travels then. So when did you start getting your travel on?
I guess I mean, I traveled a little bit in high school, but then but again, it was probably college when I really started. I spent a semester in India.
Oh wow.
I was a religion major in college, and so I was studying Buddhism, and I lived. I went on a program where I lived in a Buddhist monastery for 6 months, or 3 months in the monastery, and then 3 months traveling in India. Yeah,
that sounds intense.
Yeah, it was. We had to, take the 5 precepts for a monastery, and agree to kind of live a monastic lifestyle for the semester, which was really interesting. And and so that semester in India really is what made me ready to travel and ready to kind of go out and see as much of the world as I could. So after I graduated from school, I knew I wanted to go back overseas somehow, and I wasn't sure how that was going to be. And I had a lot of student loans, and so I applied for the Peace Corps, and where they deferred student loans while you were in it. And so I came back to Buffalo for a year, and worked as a substitute teacher in the Buffalo Public Schools, and then it happened in the mid-1990s when there were all these government shutdowns happening, and so Peace Corps wasn't able to process my application quickly enough, so I had a little bit of lag time. So I came back and did that, and then was given, because I waited to go overseas with a Peace Corps, they offered me my choice of a few different places, which was kind of unusual and really cool. And I chose Mongolia because it basically was someplace I figured I'd never really get to on my own. And I was really, because I had been a religion major, I was also really interested to see what the Buddhist revival in Mongolia looked like. This was post-Soviet times, and so I kind of wanted to see what in a formerly Buddhist country that was now reverting to Buddhism looked like, and so so that's why I chose it.
That's gotta be crazy.
Yeah, so I was like,
21, and from growing up in the East Side to then going off to a co-op, and then like it just seems like that's a wide spectrum of living situations.
It's sort of like it's my life, so it just all flows. It all makes sense. But yeah, so I was like 21 and couldn't believe it, but was headed to Mongolia for 2.5 years, and so
2.5 years. Wow.
Yeah, it's there's a 3-month training component to Peace Corps, and then you spend 2 years. And in terms of food, being in Mongolia was really a very, very interesting place because I mean, first of all, Mongolia is not known for its cuisine in general.
Yeah, I was going to say.
There's really very few people outside. I mean, you sort of hear about like Mongolian barbecue, but that's not actually Mongolian. That's
and then
Chinese,
you see like Mongolian beef buffet or something.
Yeah,
like
right.
That. Like, that's not really.
No, I mean, Mongolian food really centers around mutton. I mean, it's really very mutton based. So it's, I mean, the closest to it that you'd probably get here is maybe Tibetan, but but even Tibetan food is fairly different. So and so the food itself, it was a huge challenge for me. I'd been vegetarian for several years before going, And I just figured, I'll eat what I eat when I get there and, see what happens. And so the host family that I stayed with when I first arrived, they asked me what I like to eat. And I said, well, I have been vegetarian, so I haven't really, eaten meat in a long time, but I'll eat whatever you want. And so they made me like a rice pilaf dish, and they were like, here, there's no meat in it. And so they handed me this dish, which looked like it had big chunks of potato in it. And I bit into one and I realized that it was just a piece of fat. And so like there wasn't any meat in it. There was all fat in this dish. So
I love that mindset of like, no, that's not meat.
It's not meat. It's fat. So, and I ate that, and my vegetarian days were over. And, but then the other thing was that, like I said before, it was the mid 90s. And so, there was a transition happening from the socialist time to a democratic time. And that meant that there wasn't a whole lot of choice in food in general. I mean, since I've been back, several times since then, there's lots and lots more food now. Like you can actually get, a significant amount of fruit there, for example, stuff like that. Not like back in the 90s, you couldn't get. I mean, you could get apples for most of the year, but but they're really like there were very limited food choices, and so I think more than anything else, coming back to the States after those couple of years, I was just grateful for options, and it really made me, realize how lucky we are to have so much choice in our diet, and that, like, has really stayed with me, the whole time, since then, because it's really interesting to think about, how happy I was to get like real cheese, I can't even think of like other things that, but we drank like powdered fruit mixes that were imported from wherever. And, it just was not,
I mean, at the time, like, were you excited to be having these foods, or was there a part of you that was like, I'll go for it, but I really wish I was eating better? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I for any of my Mongolian friends that might be listening, like, I'm sorry, because I don't mean to, I think that we're talking about a very specific, like, time in Mongolian history. So it's, it's not like that now, but
a younger you there,
and I definitely was like, homesick for different food. And I mean, I would have been so happy for like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or, like just things that were different. And and I think, like, in general, all my friends that were in the Peace Corps with me felt that way at that time, because it just, you went from like having so many, not even really thinking about what you could eat or, what you could access, to like, oh my gosh, it's like, it's like mutton dumplings again, like, and, or like lots and lots of, very fatty meats and stuff like that. And, I mean, some of it is good. So there's good Mongolian food too. But,
I don't doubt it. Yeah, we're not making any broad statements about the current state of Mongolian food.
Yeah. But,
So, I mean, while you're there, were you, those first couple of years, were you able to still travel throughout, or were you pretty much stationed in a single area?
Well, I was teaching English to elementary school kids in a mining town in the northern part of Mongolia. So during the school year, I was there. But I traveled to China several times. And then after Peace Corps was over, I traveled back to China, and then I wound up going throughout Southeast Asia. So I was in Thailand and Hong Kong. I've traveled a lot since then too.
Nice.
So
that's pretty awesome.
Vietnam is like by far the tastiest.
That is me and my wife's traveled. Like our dream is to go to Vietnam and spend like 2 weeks there or something like that.
Yeah,
that's like now our favorite cuisine is pho and banh mi and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it was. I did in like 2003 or something. I did a Rotary fellowship to Vietnam, and so I spent 5 weeks there, and we actually traveled from north to south, and so we just like ate our way across Vietnam, and it was so tasty. So that's, we're definitely getting more Vietnamese options and good stuff here, but
that's what I kind of want to talk about. So you come back to Buffalo to settle down. I know you have your husband and your kid. I mean, do you miss those foods? Like, I mean, we have an ethnic scene in Buffalo, but obviously not what you're going to find overseas in China or Vietnam. Yeah. Like, do you have those, like, cravings for that, or?
I do. I mean, I think I probably more miss, like, traveling in general, and that, aspect of my life is not really, we can't really do that as much right now. But I think, I've said this a lot, and I really believe it. Like, I don't defend what we have here, like food wise or in any other way. Like, I don't get on the defensive about like what we do or don't have, because I have found that, like when I lived in California for a couple of years, like there were sushi restaurants everywhere, but my husband and I, we wound up like having our favorite sushi restaurant, and we went there pretty much, every time, because we knew what we were getting, and we knew it was really good, and, the quality was good. And so, like, you don't need 20 or 30, sushi options. Yeah. You really only need one that you really love, exactly, and so I mean, I do wish, that we had like a greater, I really like Malaysian food, for example. And that's not here, but, it's not something that I'm like regretting having, reestablished my adult life in Buffalo because also you can go to Toronto, in a quick minute and, eat any and all of that stuff. So
pretty much any cuisine or weird niche, like just like one type of thing that you'll find in Toronto.
Yeah.
Basically.
I mean, really, like, we don't have Tibetan food here. There are like, 15 great Tibetan restaurants in Toronto. Nice. So, I haven't found it to be like something that really like detracts from my quality of life.
Yeah. Would you say that? Well, okay. So let's talk about you writing for Buffalo Spree, because that's how I found out about you and met you through Krista. And was flattered enough to be featured in the Cheap Eats issue that I knew you put together. And,
I helped.
Yes. Yes. Which, by the way, thank you again for asking us.
I'm happy to. I'm sure your parents are proud.
Yes. We've done like so many things with this website, but that was like the one thing that like my parents, my grandparents, like my in-laws, they were all like, "You guys have made it big." It's like, well, I was on channel 2 for 2 weeks, but all right.
There's something about print media, though, right? Like,
yes,
Yeah.
Everyone was. I mean, it's framed in my kitchen right now.
Nice. So. Christmas present, or
yes, yeah. My in-laws framed it and put it on a nice little back. So yeah,
cool.
But so how did that get going? The whole writing about food and whatnot for Buffalo Spree.
Well, I actually, it was through Krista. I met her when my brother Adam was interning for Buffalo Rising way back in the day. Yeah, and I think that I had a blog at the time, like a craft blog, and really? I was blogging about my wedding, which was kind of a DIY, fun, funky Halloween and Day of the Dead themed thing. And I think that Krista asked my brother to write about Paula's Donuts, and I had written a blog post about how I was really seriously considering having Paula's Texas Donuts as our wedding.
Oh my
cakes.
God, that would have been amazing.
Yeah, and so Adam showed the blog to Krista, and she read it, and she was like, "Why isn't this woman writing for us?" and so we met and became really fast and great friends. And through that. And then so I started writing just
Rising.
every once in a while for Buffalo Rising, and then when Krista made the move to Spree, she asked me to come along for the ride. So I've always enjoyed writing, and like as we've been talking about it, for me food is about community and culture and all these, and politics and all these other things, and so it seemed like a great idea, and I was at a good point in my life to to just sort of pick up and start writing.
Nice. So. How did you find writing I don't know if they're like hardcore critical reviews, but like writing about food in a critical sense, like was that kind of an interesting thing?
And it's interesting because I take it really seriously. I think it's really important to be thoughtful and careful about how many times I eat at a restaurant. I'm very careful to kind of go not incognito, because nobody really cares. Like nobody really knows who I am anyway. So, but I'm not advertising the fact that I
don't have a Buffalo Spree hat, when
right? No. I don't. I'm not wearing my Buffalo Spree hoodie or anything and walking in. We go out to eat, and and based on what I'm eating, I think about it. I try what everybody else at the table has, and then go back at least one more time, but often many times. I've read like your Cheap Eats posts, and I mean, you really sample a pretty wide selection of some of those menus. I remember seeing like the Peking quick one, and I was like, wow, like all right, I feel pretty confident in knowing what I'm going to order now. Yeah, we've eaten at Peking Quick One a lot. I mean, I don't even know how many times. Taj Grill is another one that we just really like it there, and I really like it, and so we've been there, gazillions of times since they opened, and so I'm confident in my taste buds, and in the fact that I'm not getting a one-off experience and reporting on that to people, and. So that is really important, and just the sort of the ethics guiding writing about food, is something that I've read up on it, and I am cognizant of that when I do it. But yeah, it's a funny thing to be. To be in a position where what you're saying may actually have an influence on somebody's business, and, and particularly given that these are small restaurants generally that are not are trying to make it. I'm thoughtful and careful about that, and I think a really bad place isn't going to be around, and so I'm not really writing about terrible places in general. And,
I think most of your posts are generally in the positive sense, because I know that's what Krista wants with Spree is there's no point in ripping apart a place. Like, let's just focus on the ones that are good. Right, there's plenty of those to go around. So
exactly, and particularly when it comes to the kind of Cheap Eats places that we're talking about. I mean, if in writing about a place I can encourage them to spruce things up a little bit, or maybe clean up the bathrooms a little bit more, something like that, then that's great. But I don't want to hurt their existing business with the reviews that I write, and so it's a fine line sometimes to do that, but I've generally been really happy with the chance to talk about what I think is good at a place, and
Well, I know for sure that Tom here can personally single-handedly thank you for introducing him to the Shish Kebab Express.
Oh yeah, all right.
Because that is one of our favorite things. I think I read your post on it, and we went there maybe the next day, and that the Simoon, it's $4. You can get just loaded with. I don't even like chicken that much, but I think their chicken is fantastic. Yeah. And then I also get the beef, but it is.
Yeah, the falafel too is really good.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
It is one of the best things you can get in Buffalo for under $5.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a huge sandwich, too. There's you can eat it in one sitting, but you certainly don't have to. So,
yeah.
And, and that's exactly the kind of place that I think, could I be super critical of them? I suppose I could, but what is that gonna... what's that really going to do? We're not talking about places that we're going for fine dining.
No,
that
is not what Shish Kebab is for. Right. I love that place, but that is not what.
Right, but there are booths. There are, I mean, but it's clean. It's well maintained. The food is good.
You can see the spit turning around.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
It's all a good time.
And I have been told by people there before, if they think something's not quite up to snuff one day, they'll say, nah, don't order that. Nice. Why don't you go for the chicken instead today or something, and I, so I think, I mean, I could be incredibly critical of places in the reviews, but I don't.
The other thing is that, I mean, you go to a lot of ethnic restaurants. Mm-hmm. I mean, you are one of the rare people who can vouch for authenticity. I mean, to a certain degree.
Right.
I mean, because, I've never traveled. I've been to Europe, but that's the extent of it. So I've never been to Vietnam. So if I go to 99 Pho, I'm not going to be like, this is just how they make it on the little street that I went to. I can't say
it tastes just like what I had in Hanoi. Yeah.
So, I mean, you have a unique perspective where you can vouch that, how important is that in your meals?
I don't think it's... Well, let me say this.
Because this is one of the touchiest subjects.
This issue of authenticity raises the hackles of people everywhere. Because, you can also get, an authentic McDonald's meal in Beijing, right? So that question of authenticity, I think it's difficult. The times that I have used the word authentic in conversations with foodies, it can get ugly. So,
it's that's the throwing it down. I feel like that is all right, you want to go here? Fine. This is authentic.
But I do think that there are places that more or less approximate the experiences that I have had in Asia, and there are places that don't, right? So, so at a certain point, that conversation becomes a little bit crazy to me because, we all have points of reference, and we all I don't know. In the end, I don't know that there's an answer. That's
I mean, do you think though? I mean, it doesn't. What I generally feel like is that it doesn't have to be authentic to be good,
right?
Absolutely. When Nono opened, the first month, I had a nice meal there. I wrote about it, but then it was just getting ripped apart because it wasn't authentic, or it wasn't what people were having in New York City and things like that. And I understand that if you went to the best ramen place in New York City and you come to Buffalo and have a thing you have lofty expectations or you have whatever, but it doesn't mean that what they're doing can't be enjoyed in some way. I don't know.
Right.
So it's just, I try to have those conversations. It's just it's a nightmare.
No, I mean, I think in the end, what I look for is whether or not something is good. Whether or not I really enjoy the meal. And, and maybe part of enjoying that meal, maybe part of enjoying the food that I have at Peking Quick One is because it reminds me of eating in really good restaurants, in China. Maybe that's part of it. And, and maybe it's just because they're good cooks and they use pretty fresh ingredients and, they know what they're doing and, there's complexity of flavor and, and it's tasty. I mean, so, I don't know in the end, but I do know that, that I think I've eaten enough in enough different places to have an informed palate to, to make ththose calls. So, so whether or not a place is authentic, I'm never going to say again, but I can vouch for how tasty it is and how much it reminds me of, the really good noodle place. And,
well, that's all that matters, I guess. So, do you think we'll start to see other restaurants doing the homestyle menu? So Peking kind of broke, let's say, this summer. The idea that they had this menu that you can go and get. You wrote about it. I know Andrew Galarno wrote about it. And then they even like translate it to English, right. So now people who haven't studied in China can read it.
Yeah, you can flip it over. It's right there for
you. I love that it's gotten so popular, and that like literally every chef friend that I know is going there and ordering. Like, do you like?
I hope that'll keep happening.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, like I think the impetus for that is UB, and you know, so
so it makes financial sense without the foodies,
right? Yeah, exactly. And Koreana is another one like that.
Oh,
you know?
really?
Yeah.
Wait,
like,
do they have a secret menu?
No, they don't have a secret menu, but just the idea of it being sort of like a a home style Korean restaurant.
Yeah.
Like, that primarily exists to feed Korean students who are at UB and homesick for food, not unlike me being homesick in Mongolia.
Yeah.
So I would hope that as UB continues to be like an economic driver in the region, and that more and more international students come here, that kind of broadens our culinary options too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think if people were really smart and really on it, it would make a whole lot of sense to have a.
Well, I feel like that's just like a business model that should people should pay attention to. Like the owners of Peking should be like, okay, there's all these random not Asian people coming in here ordering off this menu. This is like different, and then even with Sun International,
like they did a great job. They've done a terrific.
Yeah, like
job.
They went from being like pretty kind of standard menu, like you get sweet and sour chicken and everything, and then people were like going in ordering just the couple of Burmese options, and then they just kept adding more to it, and it's like completely. I just feel like those are two prime examples that this can work.
Yeah, exactly. And and the Burmese is a good example of a cuisine that like. You're not going to find tons of Burmese food in a lot of other places. I mean, that's something that's actually really like special and unique to our area.
Yeah,
and that,
I didn't realize so many there that were here. Like, like refugees and whatnot.
And I think sort of to kind of touch back on that idea of not being defensive about who we are and what we have and like what makes our area what it is and what's special, whatever. That's a great example of something that's like really kind of interesting. I mean, you're not gonna like find tons of Burmese restaurants in lots of even major metropolitan cities. So I think there's lots to to recommend us, and I hope that we continue to see like different types of cuisine and more kind of the like home style.
And even like I think the appeal of just having like a secret wink menu. Mm-hmm. Like I think like people, and I mean maybe they're not the right people, but people will go just because they've heard of like. Oh, there's a secret menu. Like, they'll just feel cool going, and whatever. If they're ordering good stuff just because it's cool, like, at that point, like, all right, I'll deal with the douchebag hipsters that are gonna...
But you know what? Like, then it's experiences for the hipsters, too, right? Like, it's informing their taste buds and their, so, as long as they can appreciate it and their money is going, like, to, support a small local restaurant, then more power to them.
It also makes me think, like, how many other restaurants have secret menus that I just don't know about? Like, I don't know. I feel like there's got to be other Indian restaurants and things like that probably have, like, something... that I just don't get to see. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are dishes like in particular that like aren't on menus that, like the Tava Grill at Taj Grill. Like they only bring that out on like special days and that like that's a part of the buffet only for, New Year's Eve it was like a special occasion, but then every once in a while the chef will just get inspired and make something like that. So I know, lots of places have that kind of thing too, or like, dim sum, like special dim sum dishes every once in a while.
Yeah. You kind of have to kind of know about. So,
yeah, exactly.
So, I noticed on your Facebook recently that, I saw that you and your son were at Taj Grill.
Yeah.
And then I saw a picture. Was it your nephew who was at Pho 99?
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah, my sister's son.
Yeah. So having this whole idea of food and having a child, like, did you expose them to these cuisines at like an early age, basically? Or
yeah, we've been really intentional about taking our son wherever we want to go.
And not worrying about kiddie menus.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we're lucky that he will do those. Part of it is modeling, and part of it is just that we're lucky that he's the kind of eater that he is, like it's not all like tricks of the trade of parenting or anything. Like part of it is just pure luck that he's willing to eat the stuff.
Yeah, I mean the whole story of Buffalo Eats is that I was the pickiest of eaters growing up and would have ketchup sandwiches at school. So. Right.
Yeah, and I'm sure that your parents tried to
yeah, they did. My mom
give you
was a wonderful cook and tried her hardest, but it wasn't until I was like 24 where I even gave a shit.
Yeah.
So he's been game to try whatever.
He has, yeah, and he he will be very specific at this point. He's 4 now, my son Airden, and he will be very specific about what he does not like. So he's very vocal in saying that he does not like very spicy things or very or anything that's gummy. Okay. So those are kind of his
and those are understandable.
Yeah.
It's not too crazy.
Right. I mean gummy, it doesn't really affect him when we're eating anyway. It's more just like fruit snacks or something.
Okay. I thought you meant like gelatinous.
Yeah, like aspic, I guess he wouldn't eat if we tried to give it to him, but I don't know. But yeah, so he's doing really well. I mean, we will sometimes order things for him that are, a little bit, like sometimes if we're going out for Indian food, we'll get him like a mix of vegetables that don't have sauce on it, but we'll also have him eat, other things that we've got in front of us, and he'll do it, as long as it's not too spicy. He really likes Mexican food.
Nice.
So yeah, he's like definitely a carnitas lover, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, and rice and beans for sure. So he's just and it's what we eat too. So it just becomes kind of a it's his normal. So I think that helps.
I mean, that's got to be key though. Just going into it and not assuming that he won't like things, like giving him the option to decide if he does not like something, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, sometimes it's surprising too. Like you might not think that like ordering the whole fish at Peking Quick One is something that's like your kid is gonna love, but he loves that fish. I mean,
he likes even seeing the whole fish thing.
Yeah, and he's eaten like the cheek, and mean, he's like he'll do it. So but you might not think when you see a whole fish like that he that a 4-year-old would go for it, but he will. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah. He's Taj Grill is his current favorite, and so he one time at the buffet they had mango lassis, and so he tried a mango lassi and he decided that he loved it, and so now he's become like the mango lassi kid. So when we go to Taj Grill, that's like they're like, oh, Airden's here, okay, we'll bring out the lassi, so
that's awesome.
So yeah, he's he's developing his own.
That's gotta be. I mean, that's gotta be awesome to just see that his enjoyment of food like that. I mean, because it takes like most people till their college years before they even discover really ethnic cuisines and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, we could very well be in trouble. Like he's developed a taste for shellfish that is probably beyond our means. But he did eat lobster recently and really enjoy it. So shout out to his grandma Barb in California for providing that experience to him. But
before. Right after that, you have to have to talk now this is a special.
Yeah, exactly. we can't just eat this every day. So
yeah, you can't go what are you in the mood for? Lobster.
Yeah. Next. Rice and beans maybe, but
Go next.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Rachel, thank you so much for coming down here. It's been really awesome getting to know your story, and again, thank you so much for asking us to be part of that issue. And
no,
and you were my go-to Chinese connoisseur of food.
All right. Well,
I mean, like your Peking article, like it literally was our blueprint when we went in there to try it out for the first time, and you did not steer us wrong at all. So,
oh, good. Well, I'll give you plenty more tips if you need any more.
Yes, please, always. If you find anything, let me know.
All right.
But thank you so much for coming down here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, and thanks for all the work you guys are doing with Buffalo Eats. It's really great to see. It. I mean, I consider you guys part of an integral part of that. The local food scene too. So
thank you.
Yeah.
All right.